Okay, so this is part 2 of creating a motif without having the problem of a lot of jump stitches occurring during the digitizing process. So what I've done is I took a little snip of the design that you are working on, and I have inserted it using the artwork tool here in my Digitizer MBX version 5, and I have locked it into position. You're going to see that it's got a little lock here on the image to show that it can't be wiggled around accidentally while we're digitizing. And the first thing that I wanted just to mention about this is that I decided, just as I analyzed your design here, that this could be very easily created in 2 different ways. The first way that would seem to be the obvious one was that maybe you would want to have this entire part of the design, this little oval shape, actually be the entire motif. But what I discovered as I looked at it was that it would probably be easier just to do one little hill, and that would be sufficient. So I'm going to presume that the look that you're going for is not a very heavily stitched line. So what I chose to use for my motif was in the Digitize toolbar, I used the Digitize Open Line tool, and I chose the triple run stitch. One thing to notice about stitch types here is that you will have the ability to choose your stitch length and whether or not you want all of your stitches to be of equal length throughout the design that you are creating, or if you don't mind having them be of a variety of different sizes. So I have just left mine as it is with a 2.0 millimeter stitch length. You'll notice as you look closely at this that the stitches get a little bit shorter as it makes the tight curve at the top, and then they get a little longer as they come down toward the bottom. That was okay in my opinion for what I was working on right now. So you can see that I digitize only half of the motif. The other way that this could be designed is you could choose to do the entire little design. And if I were going to do that, probably what I would do is I would choose the triple run for the first part of the design. In other words, I would start it like so. I'm just gonna, using the triple run tool, I would hit the enter key to create that one line. Then I would switch over to single run and I would start where I left off. Okay, so I've traveled back toward what is the original starting point with a single run stitch. I would hit enter, and then I would take this little tool, I would use the backtrack function, and on this backtrack it's going to get me back over here to what I would call the ending of the motif. I would have a choice if I wanted that backtrack to be either a triple run, similar to the first pass that was here, or if I would just want it as a single run. So that is one way that you could make that motif, and you could then select all 3 of these pieces and turn that into a motif. Okay, so that would be one way that you could do that. The way that I have decided that I wanted to do the practice was to just keep it as one, because it's going to accomplish the same thing for creating a big block of motif filled like what you are working on. So, okay, my motif is already created. I'm not going to go through that process again. What I am going to show you now is if I wanted to make a big rectangle square, I'm going to zoom out, and here's my big rectangle square that I created a little while ago as I practiced this. See how nice that looks? And the way that I did that is I just came to the Digitize toolbar. I created a rectangle square shape. I drew that rectangle square as a fill. I chose a motif fill. The category I put mine in this time was a sashiko design. There it is right here as wave number 1 is what I called it. And I'm just going to do a quick shape of it. See, now that's how the default using that motif is going to look. How am I going to change this to look like this? Really simple. I'm going to just come down into my stitch settings of this motif fill, and I'm going to pay attention to the size and the height and the column and row spacing and the measurements that are listed here. So the width of this pattern is 10.76 millimeters wide. the height is 5.19. If I look at the columns, columns are the vertical spacing of the motif. The column is spaced at exactly the same as the width, okay? But in the row spacing and the offset, if I were to change that, I'm going to get a different appearance. So the way I want to describe that to you is we're going to select this block of fill, if it will let me, and we're going to take a look quickly at the settings on it. So again, the width is 10.76. The height of each little motif pattern is 5.19 millimeters. The spacing of the columns is 10.76. The spacing of the rows, 5.19. Same as the height of the motif. But the offset here, I've changed the offset to 5.19. And that is what's going to give me this appearance of those little waves interlocking with one another. Okay, so remember that it's 5.19. If I select this one, the offset is at 0. But if I change that to 5.19, I'm just typing that into my keyboard, enter. See how it changed? And it gave me that look that you are looking for. All right, so I'm going to just turn on the player, and we're going to see how this stitches out. It's doing the little motif first that's down here on the bottom. So here comes the big block of motif fill that I created a little while ago. You can see that it's going to, it's stitching out really slowly, but it created a baseline, and this thing is going backwards. I'm just going to speed it up a little bit so it doesn't take too long here. And it's going forward from right to left. Magically, it's turning around and it's going backwards left to right. And I believe that that's happening because of the way that the stitch spacings and the offsets have been changed on this little block of fill. So go ahead and try that to see if that works out for you. Sometimes you still go ahead and get surprises when you stitch this out on a piece of fabric, and I would recommend that you do practice it on a scrap of something rather than on your real deal. But there it goes, and it looks like it's doing what we wanted it to do. Again, it was mostly about stitch spacings and offsets that actually made this happen. Just wanted to make note here too that what is showing up on the screen is the one that is yet to be stitched out. We'll let it go a little longer and see how it does on the new one. Okay. There it is. So let me know if that works out for you, okay?